Hello viewers and welcome to another match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today we have a Week 3 featured match for Sandman's Black Crusade. This is the Fall 2016 season of his online competitive Conquest LCG League. And for today's game, at the bottom of our screen, to the south we have Talyesin Fharenal, played by Intolerance, a rather renowned traditionally old Zogwart player, and opposite up to the north is going to be Ku'gath Plaguefather, played by Joe Free 85, someone I think who is making their debut on this channel. Both of our players are deciding whether or not they want to keep their opening hands. Looks like Ku'gath has initiative, and Ku'gath decides to take a mulligan straight away, so it looks like he's hopefully going to be happy with what he's got left. He's got a hell of a lot of elites, but not a lot of support for those outside of Promise of Glory and Fall Back, but we'll see how things go. Looks like planets 1, 2, and 4 are going to be green, so we could see a victory as early as that. And here for Intolerance, running Taliesin. It's a much, well, I guess you could say it's kind of a traditional Eldar start. Bealtan Guardians and Incubus Warrior are fantastic economically, as is Rogue Trader. Warlock Destructor is just an awesome army unit. And then some signature stuff like Taliesin Spiders, where when Psykers attack, they can relocate. And of course, Taliesin, whom I haven't seen too often, when she's at a planet, Warriors or Psykers both get +1 HP, and if you've got both at her location, they additionally get a +1 attack value. So Ku'gath here, which is very powerful in our current elite favoring meta, he drops Promise of Glory for 2 cultist tokens, and that's going to enable him to potentially do something as ridiculous as putting out a Black Legion Helldrake. There's no Planum to relocate units, there's no Corrupted Teleportarium, but that Promise of Glory was a nice little bit of a deploy stall. Speaking of stalls, we've got an economy unit, Rogue Trader at planet number 4, played by Taliesin, and now it looks like Joe is going to have to spend his resources in large clumps. He's got the 8/8 Black Legion Helldrake, which he actually puts into play. Wow, so that is an 8/8 flyer with 3 command icons at planet number 1, and that basically tells our Eldar player here to stay the hell away from the first planet. So if we could have Ku'gath capture planets 1, 2, and 4, like I said, we could see a victory as early as that. Planet number 1 is Barless, the random card discard planet, and planet number 4, which is going to be a desirable destination for Ku'gath, so he can show up and beat the shit out of this Rogue Trader. That is heal all of the damage off of a target unit. We've also got Eloith on the table for cards. We've got Farron to route a unit. So I suppose it was probably wise putting a powerful unit far up the board so that Farron can't interfere with it. But I guess Joe's only got 1 resource left. Really all that he can do is use Warp Rift. And I suppose he could do this to sneak a 3-planet victory, because as an HQ action, and I've never actually seen this played in any game, you switch target planet with an adjacent planet. So we could switch, say, planet 4 for planet 3, and that could be a very quick stolen victory indeed, depending on if Ku'gath ends up sending himself to somewhere the following round. So we've got Taliesin Spiders at planet number 5 for that Warp Rift. Its units that were at a switched out planet are now in the switched in planet. So I believe the way that works is that the units remain stationary. But I'm sure someone will be correcting me in the comments, or naturally our players will sort things out for themselves. So Joe has already passed, and here at planet number 5, we've got that copy of the 1 command icon, Taliesin's Spiders. So after a Psyker attacks, as a reaction, you can move these spiders to that same planet. So they might show up and get struck, by your opponent, but it's just a great way of squeezing in a lot of extra attacks if you and your opponent are kind of exchanging combat turns back and forth. And seeing as how our Chaos player has passed, this is Intolerance taking full advantage of this opportunity to just fill the board with command units. So planet number 2, he's got 2 command icons. Planet number 3, he's got 2 command icons. And now it's totally going to be up to Ku'gath to pick and decide where exactly Ku'gath wants to go. Talyesin, I can't imagine, is going to be going to planet number 1. So it's probably going to be which of these abilities would be most kind of appealing for Taliesin to snag, just because if Ku'gath were to arrive opposite, like, I guess, let's say if Taliesin goes to 3 and Ku'gath goes to 3, that's going to be 2 cards won by Taliesin. If Ku'gath attacks, we could see a shield card prevent the Incubus Warrior from dying, and then together they could do a total of 5 damage to Ku'gath, and I guess actually just by merit of Taliesin granting warriors plus 1 HP, Ku'gath is not naturally going to be able to deal out any damage, and because he doesn't have any damage himself as of yet, he can't trigger his reaction, so we may actually end up seeing Ku'gath take a fair bit of damage. So what are we going to see? It's planet number 5 for Ku'gath, and it's planet 3 for Taliesin. So she's going to be picking up quite a bit of command, but Ku'gath did about as well as I figured he would, but it's not as bad as it could have been, considering how poised the Eldar player was to just really rake in a bunch of cash. So at planet number 1, that Black Legion Helldrake is going to fetch a couple cards for Ku'gath. Ku'gath is also going to win a couple of resources at 5, and looks like it's going to be a grand total of 3 cards and 2 resources for Intolerance. So what really hurts for Intolerance, but really helps Joe, is we've got that possible 3-planet victory condition, and we've got Promise of Glory and STC Fragment to enable elites. We see Ominous Wind being played, so for 2 resources, that is going to be Joe drawing 8 cards, and then he picks and discards 4 cards from hand. And one of those cards he drew was the Plaguefather's Banner. He got the Prince's Might, so he got a jackpot right here. He's even got another copy of Black Legion Helldrake in case he wants to get that out, so Intolerance is going to have a hell of a tough time just trying to reach mass sufficient to beat his opponent here. Even if Intolerance draws a copy of, like, Archon's Terror, a single backlash could shut that off. So Joe is in the process of discarding some cards. He discarded a Gleeful Plague Beast, a copy of Ku'gath's Nurglings, a Warp Rift, kind of an extraneous copy thereof, because he isn't going to be needing 2. And, man, I guess I can start to see very quickly why Ku'gath is such a powerful warlord in our current meta, because that Ominous Wind play was pretty ridiculous, and just considering how powerful 8/8 flyers are, Intolerance is definitely going to have his work cut out for him when it comes to trying to win this one. But we also see Ominous Wind and a Possessed discarded, and that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that Ominous Wind was played to the table, and that is 4 cards discarded. So for 2 resources, Joe not only drew 4 cards, but he also, well, he drew 8. It was a net gain of 4 cards is what I'm trying to say, and of course he had his choice of which of those is better. And now he's got a ridiculous number of shield cards in hand, so just a fantastic play on his part. We're going to see Barlas being triggered. The forced random card discard is a Warlock Destructor, but bear in mind, Gift of Isha is in Intolerance's hand, but I'm sure he'd have rather played that and then gifted it back, as opposed to just having to rely on the gift. And this is going to be Ku'gath as a 1/7 that can transfer damage against a Taliesin Spiders, a 2/3 here. So Intolerance is going to be able to win this battle at Eluith, And now let's just see what he gets to do with it. He's going to be able to search the top 3 cards of his deck for any one card that he would like, and he'd better hope for something absolutely stellar, something like Archon's Terror, and he had better hope to high hell that Joe does not end up coming across one or more copies of Backlash. Next turn, we've got Promise of Glory, we've got Ku'gath's Banner, we've got the Prince's Might, and yeah, these Black Legion Helldrakes not only fly, but they're also demons. So the Prince's Might could just be horrifying. Tzeentch's Firestorm is also a thing. Vicious Bloodletter could do Area Effect 3. So just a ton of nasty different options there for Joe. And now, let's see what exactly Intolerance gets to fetch. So he's going to be able to look at the top 3 cards of his deck, and looks like he did decide on a copy of Incubus Warrior, which is a 2 or lower cost army unit. So therefore, if we see another Black Legion Helldrake at this planet, with or without Ku'gath at his... Like, if Ku'gath picks up his banner, if he's got Helldrakes, if he's got the Prince's Might, negating all of these units, that is going to be GG right there for Taliesin. But we've got combat breaking out at planet number 5. Ku'gath swings for 1. That's 1 point of damage to the spiders. They're going to be attacking in response for 2. And now, are we going to be seeing the Warlock Destructor being returned to play through gift or not? The Taliesin spiders do retreat from the planet, so this is going to be an opportunity for Ku'gath to pick and choose an enemy unit to rout. Probably his best target for that would be the Bealtan Guardians or the Incubus Warrior, because the Rogue Trader is going to be re-arriving at a planet alongside Taliesin, and she would still collect that +1 resource bonus, and it looks like it was going to be the Incubus Warrior that was the target of that effect. So, presuming that Iridial and Eloith are going to be switching places, that makes that planet ever so slightly easier for Ku'gath to win. Ku'gath is now sitting at 2 points of damage, so he'll have an opportunity to use his reaction during the first combat round. Initiative is going to pass to Taliesin. Both of our players get 4 resources. They draw 2 cards. As we move through an HQ phase, our new 5th planet is going to be Planum, which could be used by Ku'gath to set up one of his nasty elites. We've now got a copy of Backlash. We've got a copy of Gut and Pillage, that if Ku'gath wins a battle at planet number 1, he'll be able to activate that to win 3 resources. He's got 12 cards in hand, so Joe has just got an incredibly strong showing indeed. And for Intolerance, on his side of the table, he got another copy of the Spiders. His HQ has 2 units sitting in it that are going to be showing up exhausted. He doesn't have a huge command lead, and he doesn't really have that much to show for it. I guess 7 resources, 8 cards versus 5 resources, 12 cards. But Joe's just got so many nasty tricks in his hand. The banner is so strong. The STC fragment, Promise of Glory, even Fallback, all of that is just going to be ridiculous. Fallback on a Black Legion Helldrake is such incredible value, but we've got a Void Pirate at planet number 4. STC fragment as a limited card enters play to decrease the cost asked of Ku'gath's elites. And we do have the signature attachment for Taliesin, which could give her +1 attack, +1 HP, making her a 3/7, but she's still potentially going to be one-hit knocked out by a swing of a Black Legion Helldrake. So what is going to be next? We've got the fragment out. Now Joe could do a Promise of Glory, would bring him to the equivalent of 6 resources, and then STC fragment could enable him to do a Black Legion Helldrake again. He could do that at planet number 1, and then Ku'gath could show up at planet number 2, or he could do something like a Possessed at a planet where he is naturally going to be possessing initiative. Like, he could drop that off at planet number 2. Just a lot of different options for him, but he's probably going to want to play his banner. He's going to maybe want to leave resources open for Backlash. He's presumably going to be able to trigger Gut and Pillage, and I imagine he's going to want to leave at least one resource open with which to use Warp Rift to swap probably 2 and 3. So we've got a Slith Mercenary taking up residence at planet number 2. 1 cost 2/2 with 2 command icons. We've got a Promise of Glory, resulting in 2 additional cultist tokens for Ku'gath, and now that Slith Mercenary, that bribable mercenary, is sitting at 2, which is going to be a possible victory condition here for Ku'gath. So 5 resources, 6 cards for Intolerance versus the equivalent of 6 or 8 resources and 10 cards for Joe. So our Eldar player is once again kind of spreading out his units economically. But I think when it all comes down to it, Taliesin's units individually just don't hit nearly hard enough to really weather this storm that Ku'gath can kind of toss out there. The moment that Taliesin is forced away from a planet, warriors decrease in HP unless we can get some Psykers online. None of these units are hitting particularly hard. There are a lot of shield cards in Joe's hand, and you know, for flying units, all incoming attacks are going to be cut in half. But we've got a second copy of Taliesin Spiders being played out to planet number 5. That is, well, there's going to be a Black Legion Helldrake at planet number 1, and now I can only imagine we're going to be seeing Ku'gath maybe show up at planet number 5 just so he can trigger Planum and then use Planum's ability to move his from the HQ Helldrake to his victory condition planet, and then his or maybe Ku'gath is just going to go to planet number 2, drop off his Helldrake. So there are kind of a lot of different options for him. I'll be curious to see where exactly Taliesin does go. If both warlords go to planet number 2, Taliesin will win the cards associated with that planet. But it's not like she's going to be able to overcome Ku'gath and a Black Legion Helldrake without a lot of assistance. She doesn't have a Psyker at that planet, so the Spider from 5 isn't going to be able to relocate itself to 2, and then this Spider can't attack for 3, that one can't attack for 4, so it's just kind of a lot of nasty stuff that Intolerance is going to have to deal with. And presuming that Joe will win the battle at planet number 1, that'll be Gut and Pillage being activated. And then that's 3 resources that Ku'gath can use to fund effects like Tzeentch's Firestorm and I guess Backlash, all sorts of other stuff like that. So Intolerance had better hope that he does draw into an Archon's Terror. We now see another instance of Slith Mercenary played to planet number 1. That is 4 command icons versus that Black Legion Helldrake. And now, all of a sudden, I'm wondering, are we going to maybe see Taliesin go to planet number 1 to fight the Helldrake? She'll have to retreat right away, and that seems like that would be a really poor choice. So I'm a little confused as to what Intolerance is maybe trying to accomplish with his Slith Mercenary at that planet. The wild card here is that Gift of Isha can be used to return a Warlock Destructor to play at an important planet, and then the Taliesin Spiders can both move to whatever planet after the Warlock attacks, but if Ku'gath wins planet number 1, if it all comes down to planet number 2 being Iridial, if we see the Prince's Might being triggered, demon units can't be damaged by Warlock Destructors or Slith Mercenaries or Incubus Warriors or Taliesin Spiders. So Joe passes on Deploy. Intolerance still has 2 resources. Are we going to see another Incubus Warrior? Are we going to see the Autarch Power Sword? Or instead, are we going to see the Power Sword used as a 3 shield value card to make sure that Taliesin is not bloodied in one swing by the Black Legion Helldrake here? So this is all up to Intolerance now. What exactly is he going to do? What does he want to do? And does he have any idea that Warp Rift could result in this game ending pretty quickly for him? Intolerance decides to pass, and in regard to where our players are going to send their respective warlords during the command phase, if Ku'gath goes to planet number 1, he basically guarantees that he'll be able to win that planet. Ku'gath could instead go to planet number 2 and set up his Black Legion Helldrake for the following round. The only trick here is that Ku'gath doesn't have his banner. He's really going to need enough, I want to say that Ku'gath might want to go to planet number 1 just to ensure that he wins it. A single Archon's Terror could remove one Black Legion Helldrake. Okay, so I suppose this gets easier for me because the players have made their decisions. Ku'gath arrives at 1, he's going to win 1 resource, he's going to be able to win that planet and use Gut and Pillage. Taliesin drops off all of her units at planet number 2, and I wonder if this is going to end up working out well for Taliesin. She's going to be able to win a battle at planet number 2, trigger Eloith's ability, and now maybe Ku'gath won't bother doing Warp Rift quite yet. Maybe Ku'gath will just send himself during the following round to planet number 3 and end up winning that way. For Intolerance's sake, I was going to say, let's hope he draws a copy of Doom, and it looks like he is about to get some absolutely incredible value out of that card. So let's see how things go. That was a total of 5 cards and 4 resources for Intolerance, and given the just elite heavy meta, it seems like Doom may have just won him the game, but let's see how things end up being resolved. So it was only 1 resource that Ku'gath won, and he will be able to use Gut and Pillage, but we're going to see Battle Erupt at planet number 1. That's going to be Yavharn, which could be an opportunity for Joe to put another elite into play, but then if he does that, Intolerance will be forced to put a unit in his HQ that's going to end up being subsequently destroyed. So Ku'gath attacks the Slith Mercenary at 1, and he uses his reaction to shift a point of damage onto the Beeltan Guardians. So Intolerance decides to not shield his mercenary, and the Beeltan Guardians is destroyed. Do remember that at any moment, the 6 resource possessing Intolerance could use Gift of Isha. Well, I guess now Gift of Isha would return Beeltan Guardians to play. I was going to say he could return that Warlock Destructor, and then both copies of Taliesin Spiders could have moved to planet number 1, but now, since Gift targets topmost Eldar, that's no longer an option. We've got the Slith Mercenary attacking Ku'gath, and now a Helldrake is about to absolutely annihilate the mercenaries here. And that is going to be the play of the century, trading Doom for 16 resources worth of units. And even though Joe's got a lot of cool stuff in his hand, I think he was kind of counting on a lot of this momentum carrying forward, and it seems to me as though Taliesin was maybe saved from the brink of destruction here. But are we going to see Joe trigger Yavharn or not? We see Gut and Pillage used, so that's going to bring Joe up to 4 resources. And are we going to see that triggered? If we get another elite being put into play, that is just going to be, well, I guess any elite put into play by Yavharn is just going to be destroyed by Doom. He does not trigger it. So what Ku'gath could do is, if we see Doom, we could have Fallback return it to play. We could also see Warp Rift shift planets 4 and, 3 and 2, and then we could see the Prince's Might probably make enough of a difference that Ku'gath could still win this one, even with just one Helldrake, plus whatever it is that he plays during this round, especially if Ku'gath gets his banner, and especially considering he'll have, Backlash, he'll have a couple shield icons. So maybe Ku'gath could win this one yet. But we're going to have a battle erupt at Elowith. This is going to be another opportunity here for Intolerance to look at the top 3 cards of his deck. At his disposal, at any moment, we could see Path of the Leader, 0-cost event. He could gain a resource, have a warrior get +1 attack, or he could move a Psyker, and then if that Psyker subsequently attacks, we could see the Spiders relocate. But just remember that this single card, the Prince's Might, Deep Strike card, pretty much beats Taliesin's entire army, unless Taliesin herself is going to be able to chew through a Helldrake and Ku'gath with the banner. That is going to be game over right there, because insofar as greater than 3-cost units, it's really only Taliesin, who herself is not a warrior, this Dire Avenger Exarch that stands between Ku'gath and imminent victory. But looks like we did make a decision, so we got a copy of Nullify used, and that is just going to be absolutely critical to cancel the Prince's Might, because otherwise that could be kind of a game over card right there. So let me see. Joe announces that he's got an HQ actions. We're about to see Warp Rift being used. And I can only imagine that will be swapping planet 2 and 3. So I've never seen Warp Rift used before, and I guess let's kind of sit and watch how that goes in the Octagon interface. So he's selected both planets. Perhaps there's a right-click and switch feature. I suppose it's kind of pointless for me to just think about it, because I'll be able to see in just a moment. Yep. Okay, no, it's just manual switching. Alright, well, I guess that was easy enough. And yeah, one planet switches out, one planet switches in, everything else stays still. So my apologies for not having commit that to memory earlier in this video here. But we're finally about to go through the collection portion of our HQ phase. So 4 resources and 2 cards for each player. Initiative is going to bounce to Ku'gath. Ku'gath currently has 2 green icons, and now it's going to be entirely up to him whether or not he's going to be able to win planet number 1. Worst case scenario is we've got STC Fragment and another Black Legion Helldrake played at planet number 1. Ku'gath has initiative. Helldrake for 6, Banner for 1 that's going to be all of his resources. So I guess let's see what exactly he does with that. We've got the Prince's Might being put into reserve. Remember, though, that can be nullified. And now, is Joe going to go with a Helldrake, or is he going to go with maybe Vicious Bloodletter and his banner and some things like that? Because remember, he's got initiative, and the Bloodletter is an elite, so it's got... it is a demon. It's also an elite, so it's backlash protectable. And I don't think that Nullify can be used to block, okay. He wouldn't be nullifying Archon's Terror. What I was trying to say is you couldn't... I guess Joe's got backlash for an Archon's Terror, and Taliesin has Nullify for the Prince's Might. But we haven't actually seen Archon's Terror used or drawn or anything like that. So that's all pointless speculation here. But it's going to be Intolerance's opportunity to deploy 10 resources and 12 cards for Taliesin, and 6 resources, 8 cards for Joe. Joe's got some pretty interesting decisions to make, but then again, so does Intolerance. Intolerance got a copy of Warlock Destructors, so playing that to planet number 1. Granted, it's a 2 or lower cost unit, so it'll be it'll be negated by the Prince's Might totally. But Taliesin's spiders can relocate after the Warlock Destructor attacks. So if the Prince's Might is cancelled, it's going to be a hell of a lot of attacks directed toward Ku'gath and his minions. But these are flyers. We do not have Doom being played yet, and I'm curious as to whether or not we will see Doom being played. Vicious Bloodletter touches down on planet number 1, so that's an AE3 unit, and God, I guess even if the Prince's Might is cancelled, that is going to be a ton of outgoing damage. Granted, Intolerance does have a large volume of shield cards, but this is going to be a really nasty fight at planet number 1, and I cannot help but feel like Ku'gath is either going to have to win at planet number 1, or he's maybe going to be losing this game. That Vicious Bloodletter is going to be able to deal such a ridiculous amount of damage, but if things die in the right order, Gift of Isha could bring back a Warlock Destructor that's yet to be played, then Taliesin Spiders could move in after that area effect volley. So there's certainly a glut of different options there. Here at planet number 5, we've got an Incubus Warrior taking up residence that's going to result in a card and a resource for Intolerance. Joe is low enough on resources that he's probably going to be using his banner next. There's no Subdual in Intolerance's hand. We've got Dire Avenger Exarch played to planet number 1. Interestingly enough, there's not another strong point planet until planet number 4, so it's not going to be easy for Joe to just adjust his victory condition on the fly. There's that copy of Ku'gath's banner. Ku'gath himself has 3 points of damage, and that's certainly going to be plenty for Ku'gath to shift off onto other units. And even though Ku'gath will have to attack warriors thanks to the Dire Avenger Exarch, Ku'gath can still smartly distribute that damage depending on how things go here. Intolerance, interestingly enough, drops below the number of resources required to play Doom. So I guess Intolerance must be pretty... Okay, there we go. So this is going to be Path of the Leader being played, so Intolerance hits 4 resources again, and now I can only imagine that we're going to be seeing Doom to get rid of the Black Legion Helldrakes there. Yes, that is going to be a copy of Doom. That's going to be the 2 Black Legion Helldrakes gone, but we'll likely see Fallback played for 1 to return one of these Helldrakes to play. So that wasn't nearly as good as it could have been. But Joe takes a moment to call out the LOL, and let's see at least one of these Helldrakes being destroyed, presuming we do see Fallback. So Joe must be doing a little bit of math on the fly. Intolerance finally discards that copy of Doom. Note that we've got a copy of Warlock Destructor at planet number 1, so if Taliesin shows up, every warrior, every psyker is going to be getting +1 attack, +1 HP, and the Prince's Might is probably not going to resolve because of Nullify. If it did, then Dire Avenger Exarch would be a 3/5, but it would be the only unit at this planet that could damage a non-demon. What's really important to keep in mind, though, is that Vicious Bloodletter is going to be able to do Area Effect 3, and there's only so much attack power that our Taliesin player is going to be able to bring to bear, just because between Area Effect 3 and as soon as Taliesin herself ends up being bloodied, then all of these units are going to lose their bonus HP, and then Area Effect 3 damage from before is all the more likely to kill them. So let's see how our game ends up going from here. This is where things get very interesting. It's going to be a grand total of 5 planets that Taliesin is going to win command on, plus there's the Rogue Trader, plus there's the Void Pirate. And it's all going to come down to, I think Ku'gath is going to need to win right now or forever hold his peace and not win. 6 cards and 5 resources for Intolerance. Gut and Pillage is going to be on the line, and in regard to things relevant to combat, that was kind of a piss-poor draw. We don't have the most shield cards in the world, but we've got 2 copies of the Same Han Jet Bike, we've got that Gut and Pillage, we've got a promotion, we've got the Autarch Power Sword, so let's see how things are going to be going here. The Taliesin Spider at 4, expect that to relocate itself to planet number 1 at any moment. None of these units is going to be able to swing hard enough to knock out. I guess the Warlock Destructor could hit Ku'gath for 4, but he's got 8 total HP, so he's not going to be able to be knocked out in a single blow, and this Vicious Bloodletter is going to do a hell of a lot for Ku'gath. So the Prince's Might is going to be deep striked. So are we going to see Nullify or not? So let's see, where is Nullify? Nullify is playing an event, and is Taliesin not actually going to nullify that? I would imagine that deep striking an event does count as playing it. Maybe Intolerance is taking a moment to look up that ruling. So why don't I go ahead and pause our video as we wait for Intolerance to look up that rule. Alright, so Intolerance drops Nullify to the table as our players are discussing whether or not they can nullify this. Plays an event card. Intolerance doesn't have the rules insert handy. Because of past comments, I'm really reluctant to interfere with the game. But I would recommend that our players just take a moment to Google it on CardGameDB to see if it resolves. I will stay my hand, and I will just see what the players decide on. Alright, so they looked up the ruling, and the ruling is that indeed when you deep strike a card, it counts as being played, so my instincts have not led me too far astray, and in this case we are going to be seeing the Prince's Might nullified, but that means Taliesin is being taken out of the first combat round here, but of course she still is conferring her beneficial ability to just a whole host of units here. So she's shown up at planet number 1, and now this Vicious Bloodletter is going to be able to do Area Effect 3, and it's going to be a little bit tricky for Taliesin to keep all of these units alive. So the Vicious Bloodletter is going to threaten to kill the Mercenary, the Spiders, the Incubus Warrior, the Exarch will survive, and the Warlock Destructor will also survive, but we're going to have to see shield cards to keep the Mercenary and the Spiders and the Warrior alive, and then Ku'gath is going to be able to finish the job by moving damage onto some of these units, but we've got a 3 value, 2 values, some 1 values, and a Gift of Isha left in addition to those shield cards. So it's going to be up to Intolerance now to do a little bit of math. The Warlord here is going to be awfully wounded if we don't end up seeing the Autarch Power Sword being used. But as Intolerance is doing that math, I think I will pause once again and hope. Okay, so there we go. Shield card ends up being tossed out, so the Incubus Warrior is going to take 1 point of damage, and it's being kept alive solely thanks to Taliesin's ability. So Ku'gath is going to have a little bit of a difficult decision in that, do you want to try to bloody Taliesin as quickly as possible, or do you want to be a little bit I don't know if conservative is the right word, but do you want to instead use your reaction and your banner's reaction to move damage onto units where you're going to be able to guarantee kills? So Joe throws out a little bit of a question mark, and intolerance goes back to thinking. There's another copy of Same Han Jet Bike being discarded, but to which unit is it going to be discarded? So, like I said, the Slith Mercenary and the Spiders and the Warrior are all necessarily needing shields. Okay, there's that 3 shield value Autarch Power Sword, so worth noting is that there is only one... Well, I guess basically if the Black Legion Helldrake attacks Taliesin, she is going to be removed from the planet, and there's nothing that that she's going to be able to do about it, but the Dire Avenger Exarch is going to interfere with that effect. So I suppose we'll just have to see how quickly Intolerance can deal with this Vicious Bloodletter. I would imagine it's not going to be able to hang around for too long. And Joe doesn't have access to too many shield cards, but Joe's going to want to try to keep Ku'gath alive. He's going to want to try to keep his Helldrake alive, and he's got a hell of a lot of units to deal with here. So let's see. Hypothetically, we've got the... Okay, no, it's going to be the Autarch Power Sword blocking the Warlock Destructor. So keep in mind, at the moment, all of these units, all these sleeper units are activated. They're going to have a bonus HP and a bonus attack, so the Vicious Bloodletter is going to be gone. We could see, like, let's say with shields, we've got 3 shields, so this could swing for 4. That could do, like, 2 points of damage to Ku'gath if we see a 2 shield card discarded. Then this could attack for 3. We could see another 2 points of damage dealt to Ku'gath. At that point, he would just have 1 HP left. Then a single additional attack could remove Ku'gath. And then we could maybe see the Vicious Bloodletter being... I suppose it would maybe survive an initial combat round here. We're seeing these cards shifted around. So let's say the Destructor brings Ku'gath to 5, the Dire Avenger Exarch brings Ku'gath to 7, or more wisely, it could be the Incubus Warrior killing off Ku'gath. The Exarch and the Mercenary could together team up to get rid of the Vicious Bloodletter, and then we could start taking pot shots at the Black Legion Helldrake once Ku'gath is bloodied and removed from that planet. So it looks like even without the Gift of Isha, Intolerance is going to be able to pretty handily hold down this planet, and then it's going to be up to Intolerance to win, say, planets 1 and 2 and 4, or 1 and 2 and 4, or 1 and 3 and 5, and then that is going to be the game for him. So let's see, we're currently distributing all of our damage: 3 to Taliesin, 0 to the Destructor, 3 to the Dire Avenger Exarch, 1 to the Incubus Warrior, 2 to the Taliesin Spiders, and 2 to the Slith Mercenary. Kind of the crappy thing about this is, upon the battle being won, you can remove all damage from a target unit, but once Taliesin returns to the HQ, her ability specifies all these units have to be at a planet. So as soon as the Mercenary is not at a planet, like the Warrior dies, the Mercenary dies, and lots of these units are barely hanging around. So Joe laments the fact that there's too much math. Intolerance agrees. Joe indicates that he doesn't have any actions, and I think now it's finally going to be time for our Taliesin player to return fire. So which of these units is going to be attacking first? Yep, I was going to say it may as well be a very fragile one, because Ku'gath might be able to kill... I guess at the moment he's threatening to kill 2 different units. He could get rid of the Mercenary and the Incubus Warrior thanks to moving damage, but we've got an outgoing attack valued at 4 directed toward Ku'gath. Will we see a shield or not? I suppose you probably want to use at least some sort of shield card. Well, I forgot, though, in my math, when Ku'gath attacks, he strips 2 points of damage off of himself. So the math isn't quite as cut and dry as I made it seem. But let's just kind of see how things go. Currently, it's an attack of 4. If Ku'gath shields it for 2, that means he's going to be at 5. If he then attacks in return, he could kill the Slith Mercenary, and he could kill the Dire Avenger Exarch, but we could also see Gift of Isha used to recur a Dire Avenger Exarch. But anyway, lots of HP for Ku'gath to chew through regardless. Tzeentch's Firestorm is going to be discarded as a shield. Ku'gath is now sitting at 5 points of damage. Now Ku'gath is going to be able to attack in response. He has to target a warrior, so he could select Taliesin Spiders and then move a point of damage to the Incubus, the Slith. A lot of different choices there, but as our game slows down, bogged down by grinding math, we're waiting on Joe to figure out who he wants to attack. The Black Legion Helldrake is a very powerful unit, but it's not as if it can't be worn down quickly by 3, rounded up to 2 after being cut in half. Same thing here. This is another 2. That's also 2. That's also 2. Taliesin is a mere 1. So Ku'gath is going to be transferring a point of damage onto the Spiders and the Slith Mercenary, but they each get an HP bonus thanks to Taliesin. So let's see. We're seeing Gut and Pillage discarded, I guess just as a shield card to block Ku'gath's attack. Okay, so looks like instead of all the moved damage from the Spiders going to... Alright, I guess we saw a point of damage being moved from Ku'gath to the Slith Mercenary, and then I think that was also moved to the Spiders? Let's see, Ku'gath exhausts, and the Slith Mercenary... Okay, yeah, so where did the damage go? So 1 point was onto the Slith, okay, and 1 was onto the Dire Avenger Exarch as well. So that explains that, and now both of those, well, first of all, the Slith Mercenary is just outright dead, and the Dire Avenger Exarch is only being kept alive by merit of Taliesin's ability. And now these Spiders are going to be targeted by... I guess just by Ku'gath's attack, which we saw Gut and Pillage block. And now it's going to be the turn for our Eldar player to attack for 3, to attack for 3, to attack for 4. And I guess let's just see what those end up being directed toward. So Ku'gath has only got 1 shield card left. We could say that brings him to 5 damage total. And then this could bring him to 9 damage. I guess the Dire Avenger Exarch could put him perfectly at 8. Then he would be bloodied. And then, I guess, so ideally it would be Taliesin Spiders plus the Dire Avenger Exarch attack for, I guess, 6. Ku'gath is bloodied, and then the Warlock Destructor finishes off that vicious bloodletter. But the Warlock Destructor attacks. Taliesin Spiders is going to be relocated from, I believe it was at 4, to planet number 1. We see that Backlash discarded to preserve the vicious bloodletter. Our Chaos player doesn't have anything that he's going to be able to do, so it's now going to be Intolerance's opportunity again. An attack of 3 is going to finish off the vicious bloodletter, and now we're going to have 2 outgoing attacks valued at 3, and that's going to be a bloodied Ku'gath Plaguefather, and we'll have to see if Joe ends up calling out the GG at the conclusion of this battle, or if he otherwise decides to just play out the remainder of the match. So Ku'gath takes some damage, Ku'gath gets hit again, and now Ku'gath is going to be outright bloodied. Ku'gath would have to win another green strong point icon to take home this game, and earliest that could happen is going to be at our current planet number 4, so that's not looking too tremendously likely. Now at planet number 1, after Ku'gath is bloodied and sent packing away from this planet, all of our units are going to ready. I suppose Taliesin is going to be staying. She herself may end up being bloodied. Joe decides to stay as well, but he's not going to be able to do too awful much to oppose all of these units. If Taliesin stays, then she's going to be bloodied by the Helldrake. If she leaves, the Avenger, like the Exarch dies, the Warrior dies, but the instant that she gets hit, then all of those units are going to be dying as well. So it almost seems like the math may have been better for Taliesin to retreat. I guess we'll just kind of have to see how things go. The Helldrake is going to bloody Taliesin immediately. Oh god, I'm sorry. Dire Avenger Exarch is, of course, at this planet, so a warrior has to be selected as the recipient of that attack. So my apologies to Intolerance. I totally spaced that the Dire Avenger Exarch here exists. So the Black Legion Helldrake is going to have to basically waste an attack against, I guess its best target would be a copy of Taliesin's Spiders, because it's about to get picked apart. There are no shield cards left for Joe, so he's going to end up taking 2 points of damage. Let's say if he attacks the Incubus Warrior, it's basically 2 points of damage, 2 points of damage, 2 points of damage, 2 points of damage, 1 point of damage. He does decide to attack the Exarch, but that's going to be 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, and that is going to be the Black Legion Helldrake gone, and that could be 3 points of damage pulled off of Taliesin. Currently, Ku'gath is going to be a 1/6 thanks to his banner. He's going to be able to relocate 1 point of damage, but he's not nearly as formidable as he was before. So the Black Legion Helldrake keeps on taking damage. Once we go to our HQ phase, that's only going to be 4 resources for our Ku'gath player, and that's going to be not enough to even do the Possessed into play. Well, I guess with this STC fragment it is, but it still looks like Joe is definitely hurting here. So we've got damage slowly but surely being stacked up onto the Black Legion Helldrake there. That Warlock Destructor is going to be able to finish it off, and now it's totally going to be up to Intolerance here just to see how he's going to seal out the game, unless by some miracle Joe is able to make a comeback. But just considering how well our Eldar player has been doing economically this entire match, that looks like that's going to be a really difficult thing to do indeed. Taliesin pulls this damage off of herself, but we are about to see the Incubus Warrior die. Once this planet is added to Taliesin's victory display, and then we're going to be moving on to bigger and better things. And it seems as though our Ku'gath player has yet to decide to throw in the towel. So if he can somehow manage to shore up Planum, then that could be the game for him right there. So Joe is saying he needs to swap the planets. Okay, right. So someone captured Elowith, and now I guess we've got to... Okay, so there we go. Elowith is going to be back on the table, and we're going to need to capture Iridial. The Warp Rift kind of threw off Octagon's automation here. So now Elowith is going to be our soon first planet, and still, as like a single icon planet, that doesn't... It means that Joe and Intolerance aren't going to be able to win until we get all the way to our soon-to-be planet number 3. So both players indicate that they don't have any additional actions during the combat phase, and we're about to move to our HQ phase. So 4 resources, 2 cards for each of our players, And now our new first planet should be Eloith, although we do not have a first planet icon anymore. I wonder if our players are going to be able to right-click on that at some point and make that the first planet. Intolerance is currently thinking whether or not he wants to keep his Destructor in play, and in regard to drawn cards, Joe gets one of our Deep Strike units, Cetherial the Invocator, so he could put this in reserve for 1 and then subsequently Deep Strike it for 3. And when a combat round begins, he can pick a Chaos Power event in his discard pile and return that to his hand. So that would be something like Tzeentch's Firestorm. It would not be the Prince's Might. It could also be Warp Rift, and it could also be Ominous Wind, but he doesn't exactly have much to do with that yet. There's no really expensive elite in play. So let's see what Joe decides to do. Intolerance keeps his Warlock Destructor in play after all. We've got a copy of Craftworld Gate, which can return target army units that Taliesin controls to her hand. But apart from just avoiding being sniped by Ku'gath, there's not a ton of benefit to that effect yet. I suppose outside of maybe clearing some damage off of a copy of Taliesin's Spiders here. But what is next for Intolerance, and what, if anything, are we going to be seeing Joe doing? Okay, so Joe indicates that he has passed. Very interesting, but I can only imagine that he's going to be saving up his resources for the following round or thereafter to, I guess, maybe spend a bunch of cash to dump a Black Legion Helldrake at his victory condition planet. But now it's going to be up to Intolerance to decide what he wants to play. He's certainly got a wealth of options in his hand. The Bealtan Guardians he could maybe put to planet number 3, but I guess really he could just try to make things as miserable as possible for Ku'gath. You could dump a ton of command icons at planet number 3 and send your Warlord there, and then, like, if Taliesin drops off all of these units at 3, there's no way in hell that Ku'gath is going to be able to win that planet. Ku'gath is a mere 1/6, and he can only move 1 point of damage, and that's not going to be enough to deal with whatever Taliesin could bring to planet number 3. And even if Taliesin deposits some relatively weak army units at 1, 2, and or 4, it wouldn't necessarily take very much to drive Ku'gath away from one of those planets, especially considering we've now got 2 copies of Gift of Isha. We see Spirit Seer Erithal out at planet number 3, and now that brings Intolerance to 4 resources. Intolerance is looking to get anywhere between 2 and 4 resources when command struggles are all said and done, I guess between 2 and 5 resources thanks to this rogue trader. And now at planet number 1, we have a copy of Taliesin's Warlocks. So if Ku'gath were to show up at planet number 1, Ku'gath would attack for 1, wouldn't be able to move any damage, and then the Warlocks, thanks to discarding warrior cards, they could attack twice for 3 each time, and after they attack, we could see the Taliesin Spiders being moved from whatever planet they're currently sitting at, like 2, 3, or 4, all the way to planet number 1, and then Ku'gath is going to be forced to retreat, so it's looking less than ideal for Ku'gath to go to planet number 1. So it looks like Joe and Intolerance both are deciding where they want to send their warlords, but let's wait and see what exactly they decide. Okay, so it looks like our players have finally decided where exactly they want to send their warlords because of Octagon's Warp Rift malfunction, I think Intolerance should actually have one of each planet type icon as opposed to just one blue icon. Ku'gath, interestingly enough, decides to go to planet number 1, so Ku'gath is going to draw a couple of cards. Talyesin goes to planet number 2, so that's going to be 3 planets worth of Command Struggles 1 by our Eldar player. And at present, the topmost warrior Eldar card is going to be Dire Avenger Exarch for the purposes of Gift of Isha. But if we see Taliesin's Warlocks, they can only discard a copy of Bealtan Guardians for that effect. So if we were to see Gift of Isha, you'd probably want to use that, before discarding the Bealtan Guardians. But Intolerance gets 3 cards, 4 resources, another Nullify, another Path of the Leader. Joe was lucky enough to get a Tzeentch's Firestorm, which may really pay off for him. But let's see how that goes. We're going to be seeing battles at planets 1 and 2. There aren't any units for Pharenal to rout. But what exactly is going to be happening? Ku'gath has initiative, but Ku'gath is only a 1/6. And the Warlocks, like if Ku'gath is so foolish as to attack, I think that is going to be game over for Ku'gath, because we could see Nullify used to cancel out a Tzeentch's Firestorm. So Ku'gath basically has to run away right now, or otherwise he is just destined to be destroyed. But what are we going to see Joe do? Intolerance takes a moment to correct his victory display, as I noticed a little earlier in this video. And again, it's waiting on Ku'gath's combat turn. If we see Ku'gath attack, then I believe he's essentially throwing the game. Ku'gath exhausts, but are we... Okay, so I guess we indicate that there are no actions. Intolerance indicates no actions. Ku'gath attacks for 1, and now I guess this is going to be the game right here. So Ku'gath attacks for 1. The Warlocks are a 3/2 unit, and this is going to be a perfect opportunity to, well, I guess maybe I kind of misspoke. I suppose it all depends. Like, the one and only shield card is going to be Tzeentch's Firestorm. So let's say Ku'gath attacks for 1. We don't see it shielded. If Tzeentch's Firestorm is played to kill the Warlocks, Taliesin can nullify that effect, and then we could see the Warlocks attack. Both of these spiders will relocate even though they're exhausted, but the Warlocks, thanks to the discard of a Bealtan Guardians, can attack twice. We could see Gift of Isha return. A lot of stuff to play, actually. So the Warlocks attack for 3. We could see the Dire Avenger Exarch and another Bealtan Guardians being returned to play. So Joe calls out that he actually has an action. So before the Warlocks attack, I guess, we're going to end up seeing that copy of the Firestorm. But it could be either the Spirit Seer or Taliesin used. So the Firestorm is going to be used for 3 resources. So that's a lot of money being drained away because we're about to see Nullify, I can only imagine. And then 3 plus 3 is going to be 6. We could see Gift of Isha result in another... Gosh, I guess in another 3 or 4 or whatever. Yep, so Joe calls out LOL. And this is where things are about to go bad. So do we see Gift of Isha's? Do we see the double attack? Taliesin's Warlocks attacks for 3. I can only imagine we're going to be seeing our spiders relocated, or maybe not, because they don't absolutely need to show up at that planet. But are we going to be seeing Bealtan Guardians discarded, or are we going to be seeing Gift of Isha return a Dire Avenger Exarch to play? Joe indicates that he doesn't have any actions. The Warlocks could finish everything right here if we get one more attack outbound. So Craft World Gate is going to return a target army unit. Okay, so it's going to be the Taliesin Spiders are going to be bounced back from hand, or from play to hand at planet number 2. The spiders are discarded. The warlocks ready to attack for 3, and then of course Gift of Isha could have returned the spiders for another 2 points of damage, and then we could have seen the Dire Avenger Exarch for another 2 points of damage. But the warlocks swing, Ku'gath is going to be destroyed. Joe calls out the GG, and that is the good game right there. So good game, well played by both of our players. A tremendous congratulations to Intolerance for managing to win over the meta shining Ku'gath Plaguefather, and he has piloted Talyesin Fharenal to victory. So a huge congratulations again to him. This has been the Week 3 featured match for Sam Mann's Black Crusade. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy this content, hit the like button, share this video, even though just yesterday Conquest was announced as no longer being in development. The license has been terminated between Games Workshop and Fantasy Flight Games, even though Conquest is probably likely to someday disappear into obscurity, only to be forgotten. It'll always hold a cherished place in my heart. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like the video, like I said, share it, engage with me on social media, Facebook, Twitter. The Hive Tyrant channel is not done covering Conquest yet. If at any point you have any inclination whatsoever to continue to support this channel, feel free to make a small contribution on Patreon. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and be sure to check back in again soon for much more Conquest LCG content to come.